The planet Zelaris glowed like a jewel in the black velvet of space. Its forests shimmered with bioluminescent plants. Rivers sparkled under 3 suns, and towering crystal structures reflected colors no human eyes had names for. This world was home to the Xylarans, an intelligent alien species known for their elegance, strength, and unmatched strategic minds. At the top of this society was Queen Elira, a figure of grace, wisdom, and power. She had led her people through decades of peace and prosperity. Yet despite all her achievements, she longed for something different, someone who could touch her heart, not just her mind. The council chambers of Zelaris often buzzed with political discussions, strategic debates, and ceremonial duties. Yet in the midst of this busy life, Elira sometimes found herself walking alone among the glowing trees, listening to the quiet hum of nature. She had long given up hope that anyone could match her intellect or intrigue her with simplicity. Then came Captain Alex Carter, a human sent from Earth as part of an interstellar diplomatic mission. Alex was nothing like the Xylarans. He was modest, with a warm smile and gentle manner. He carried himself with humility, never trying to impress with grandeur or authority. To Elira, this was refreshing. In a world of beings who often measured worth by power and brilliance, Alex seemed almost ordinary. And yet, there was something quietly compelling about him. Their first meeting took place during a grand ceremony in the Crystal Hall, a massive structure of transparent stone that reflected the colors of the forest outside. Elira approached the human delegation with curiosity, observing their different gestures and language. Humans were smaller than Xylarans, their bodies softer, their movements less deliberate. But Elira noticed the calm confidence in Alex's eyes. He did not look around in awe of her throne or her attendants. Instead, he simply greeted her with respect and kindness, bowing slightly in his human way. "Welcome to Xylaris, Captain Carter," Elira said, her voice smooth, yet carrying a subtle weight of authority. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Alex replied politely. "It is an honor to meet you. Your world. It is beyond anything I imagined." Elira tilted her head, intrigued. Most visitors gawked at Zelaris and fumbled their words. Alex spoke with curiosity, not fear, admiration without awe. It was rare, and she liked it. The following days were filled with official meetings, shared meals, and cultural exchanges. Elira found herself watching Alex closely, learning about humans, their customs, and their values. He spoke of Earth as a planet filled with challenges, yet humans had a natural way of overcoming them with ingenuity, cooperation, and courage. His stories fascinated her, and she realized that in his modesty lay a strength she had never expected. One evening, under the glow of the twin moons of Xylaris, Elira invited Alex for a walk in the bioluminescent gardens. The air was filled with sweet alien fragrances, and soft lights danced on the petals of glowing flowers. "You humans seem different from us," Elira said casually, though her eyes betrayed her curiosity. "You are not as physically strong, not as tall, yet you survive, adapt, and thrive." Alex chuckled softly. "We do what we must. I think humans have a strange way of finding solutions. Maybe it's not always strength, but thinking, creativity, and working together. We learn fast when we need to." Elira smiled, intrigued by his simplicity and honesty. She found it hard to believe that such a quiet man could carry such insight. She had ruled her people for decades, and had seen many beings who prided themselves on intellect or strategy. But Alex had a natural ability to understand without arrogance. As days turned into weeks, Elira and Alex spent more time together. They shared stories of their childhoods, laughed at small misunderstandings between their species, and explored the glowing forests and crystal rivers. Elira realized she was looking forward to seeing him each day, not as a diplomat, but as a companion. She admired his modesty, his curiosity, and the way he listened to her, not as a queen, but as a person. It was during a quiet evening meal, with the sky painted in shades of pink and violet, that Elira made a decision. She wanted more than companionship. She wanted a partner, someone who could stand beside her not just in ceremony but in life. She took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "Alex," she began, her voice calm but firm, "I have spent many years ruling Xylaris. I have faced threats, challenges, and responsibilities that few could imagine. Yet, I find myself wanting something different. I want someone who sees the world simply, who can teach me about things I have not learned in council chambers. I want a union with you, Alex looked at her in surprise. He had been close to Elira, but marriage had never crossed his mind. And yet, as he saw the sincerity in her eyes, he understood that this was not a ceremonial offer, but a personal one. "Your Majesty," he began carefully, "I am honored. I cannot claim to fully understand what this means for your people, but for me, I would be proud to stand with you." And so, the union was arranged, not as a political strategy, not as a requirement of diplomacy, but as a genuine choice of two beings who had found connection across species and worlds. The citizens of Xylaris were fascinated. Humans were rare, and the idea of one marrying the queen sparked curiosity and excitement. Some were skeptical, whispering about the differences between species, their capabilities, and the challenges of such a union. Others celebrated, seeing it as a sign of openness and evolution for their civilization. During the wedding ceremony, the crystal hall shone brighter than ever. Crystals reflected the glowing gardens outside, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. Xylarans in ceremonial attire watched as Elira and Alex stood together. Elira radiated calm confidence, while Alex's modest demeanor contrasted with the grandeur around him. Yet as they exchanged vows, the hall seemed to fill with something more powerful than ceremony: respect, understanding, and a quiet strength. After the ceremony, the couple walked into the gardens. Elira looked at Alex, feeling a strange mix of admiration and wonder. "You seem ordinary," she said lightly, "and yet I feel that there is more to you than I can see." Alex smiled, a hint of humility in his expression. "Perhaps, Your Majesty, that is all humans are, ordinary, until we need to be extraordinary." Elira laughed softly. She liked that answer. It felt right. It hinted at potential, at strength hidden beneath modesty, and at a future that could be full of surprises. As the night deepened, the bioluminescent plants glowed around them, reflecting in their eyes. Elira realized that she had found more than a partner. She had found someone who could challenge her, surprise her, and perhaps even inspire her in ways she had not yet imagined. Little did she know, this modest human would soon face challenges that would reveal a side of him beyond imagination, a side that would change the course of her life and her planet forever. For now, though, peace reigned. Laughter filled the gardens, and the strange, delicate beginning of a union between alien queen and human captain promised a story unlike any Xylarans had ever seen. And so, under the glow of 3 suns and the sparkling forest of Xylaris, a human and a queen began their journey together, unaware that their true test and the revelation of extraordinary human courage was waiting just beyond the horizon. The weeks following the wedding passed peacefully on Xylaris. Captain Alex Carter adapted smoothly to his new life among the Xylarans. He learned their language, their customs, and even some of their advanced sciences. Despite being surrounded by brilliance, he remained modest, always observing carefully before offering suggestions. Queen Elira watched him closely. She was pleased with his respect for Xylaran culture, yet she often wondered about the depth hidden behind his quiet demeanor. Alex, on the other hand, studied Xylaran strategies with fascination. The Xylarans were experts in planning and organization, but their methods were formal, structured, and often predictable. Alex noticed small gaps, tiny weaknesses in their approach that could be exploited by enemies. Yet he said nothing, never flaunting his observations. Instead, he focused on understanding their way of thinking, building trust, and learning the rhythms of their society. Life in the royal palace continued with a sense of calm. Elira and Alex spent mornings walking through the gardens, watching the rivers of light that ran like molten glass through the forests. Afternoons were filled with council meetings where Elira led discussions on trade, science, and diplomacy. Even in these sessions, Alex listened more than he spoke, occasionally offering insights in a careful, unassuming manner. His advice was thoughtful, precise, and often unexpected. One afternoon, while observing the training grounds, Elira noticed Alex's keen attention to the soldiers' drills. Xylaran warriors moved with grace and precision, practicing formations and maneuvers under the watchful eyes of instructors. Yet Alex's gaze was not on the elegance of the movements. It was on efficiency, adaptability, and potential flaws. "You study them too closely," Elira said lightly. Her curiosity piqued. "I'm just observing," Alex replied calmly. "I like to see how they react under different situations. Sometimes small changes make a big difference, Elira smiled, impressed despite herself. Humans were smaller and physically weaker than Xylarans, but Alex's mind worked differently. He thought in patterns, in ways Xylarans rarely considered. There was a quiet confidence in him that hinted at abilities Elira had not yet witnessed. Beyond the palace walls, the galaxy itself was restless. Reports came from distant colonies about a new aggressive alien race, the Chthari. They were fierce, swift, and technologically advanced, leaving destruction wherever they went. For decades, Xylaris had remained untouched, its location hidden by clever cloaking technologies and strategic alliances. But now, scouts reported that Chthari ships were approaching Xylaran space. The council convened in urgency. Elira, ever composed, led the discussion with clarity. Strategies were proposed, defenses evaluated, and contingencies planned. Yet despite her calm exterior, Elira felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her. Xylaris had never faced an enemy like this, one whose approach was unpredictable and whose weapons were deadly. Alex attended the council meetings as an observer. He listened quietly, making mental notes. He understood the Xylaran strategies, but he also saw gaps that even the Queen's Council had missed. He did not speak, not yet. His respect for Xylaran leadership was clear, and he knew his time to act would come. During private moments, Elira asked him about Earth's defenses. Alex described human strategies in simple terms, how humans relied on flexibility, creativity, and teamwork, rather than sheer power. He explained how small groups could outmaneuver larger, stronger forces if they were willing to think differently. "You make it sound easy," Elira said with a small laugh. "It's not easy," Alex replied, "but humans adapt. We learn from every mistake. Sometimes that's enough to turn the tide." Elira was struck by his words. They were humble, yet there was an undercurrent of strength. She had thought she understood this man, this modest human who walked beside her through the palace halls, but now she realized there was more, something deeper, something waiting to be revealed. The peaceful days continued, but tension in Xylaran space grew. Scouts reported strange energy readings near the outer colonies. Supply lines were disrupted mysteriously. Rumors of Chthari movements spread like wildfire, causing unease among citizens. Despite all this, Alex remained calm, observing, thinking, analyzing. His quiet composure became a source of reassurance for Elira, who sometimes found herself worrying more than she would admit. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the forests, Elira and Alex walked through the glowing gardens. The air shimmered with alien light, and the soft hum of bioluminescent plants filled the silence. "Do you think they will come here?" Elira asked, her voice low. "They might," Alex said, looking up at the sky. "But if they do, we won't be defenseless. We have strengths they cannot predict." Elira studied him, curiosity mixing with admiration. "You speak as if you've already faced them, yet you haven't. You are calm in a way I cannot fully understand." Alex smiled softly. "Perhaps humans have to be calm. Panic doesn't help. Planning does. Observation does. Action does." The next morning, a message arrived from the outer scout stations. A small Chthari fleet had been detected near the far edge of Xylaran space. The council was summoned immediately. Elira, dressed in her ceremonial armor, entered the chamber with Alex by her side. The Xylaran council debated their options. Some argued for immediate strikes, others for defensive retreats. The room buzzed with tension. Elira remained composed, but she noticed Alex's eyes scanning the holographic maps with precision, calculating possibilities she could not immediately see. Finally, she asked him quietly, "What do you think?" Alex considered the question carefully. "If we act only as you've planned, they will likely exploit our predictability. But if we use mobility, surprise, and flexible teams, we can slow them down, maybe even force them to retreat. The key is not to match their strength, it's to outthink it." The council turned to him in surprise. Elira smiled slightly, appreciating his insight but letting the discussion continue formally. She knew the time for his true skills would come. Over the next few days, Alex worked closely with the Xylaran commanders, not giving orders, but offering guidance. He suggested alternative patrol routes, camouflage techniques for supply ships, and ways to organize small strike teams. Xylaran soldiers were skeptical at first, accustomed to their structured methods. But slowly they began to see the value in his approach. Elira watched all of this with a mixture of pride and wonder. The modest human she had married was quietly earning the respect of her people without ever raising his voice. His methods were different yet effective. She began to sense that the calm before the storm was not just a period of peace, it was a moment of preparation. One that would reveal the extraordinary capabilities of humans when the challenge finally came. That night, Elira and Alex walked again through the gardens, the air shimmering with soft light. "You are not what I expected," Elira said softly. "I thought you were just modest. But there is something more. Something I cannot see fully yet." Alex smiled gently. "Perhaps you will see soon enough. Humans often show what they are capable of only when the moment demands it." Elira felt a shiver of anticipation. She had married a man who seemed ordinary, but she sensed that his ordinariness was a mask for something far greater. She did not yet know how far his abilities would extend, how his courage and ingenuity could change the fate of her world. For now, though the people of Xylaris went about their daily lives, unaware that the shadow of the Crathery was approaching. The forest continued to glow, the crystal towers reflected the suns, and the queen and her human husband walked together, quietly preparing for a storm that would test the very limits of their courage and unity. And in that calm, Alex's mind worked tirelessly. He studied maps, practiced drills, and anticipated every possible move of an enemy he had never yet faced. Queen Elira watched him, slowly understanding that the modest human she had married might soon become the greatest weapon Xylaris had ever seen, not through strength, but through courage, strategy, and an unwavering human spirit. The calm was ending. The storm was coming, and when it did, Xylaris and its queen would see the true nature of the human she thought she knew. The early morning skies of Xylaris were unusually still. The glowing rivers and bioluminescent forests shimmered in peace, unaware of the danger approaching from the void of space. For weeks, scouts had reported the movement of the Crathery fleet, but many citizens remained unaware, trusting the walls of their crystal cities and the wisdom of their queen. Queen Elira stood on the observation balcony of the palace, her eyes scanning the horizon. The twin moons hung low in the sky, reflecting soft light on the shimmering towers. Alex stood beside her, calm and alert, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. "They're coming closer," one of the scouts said, urgency in his voice. "Sensors detect multiple vessels at the outer rim." Elira nodded, steadying herself. She had faced threats before, but the Crathery were different. They were swift, aggressive, and utterly unpredictable. Her people were brilliant strategists, yet she knew even the most careful plans could fail against a foe like this. Alex placed a hand lightly on her arm. "We are ready," he said. "You've trained your people well, and if we stay flexible, we can handle them." Elira studied him. She trusted him, but she did not yet fully understand the depth of his capabilities. Alex had been modest and calm for weeks, quietly preparing, observing, and guiding without ever drawing attention to himself. Now, the moment of truth was near. The first alarm sounded shortly after dawn. Crathery ships breached Xylaris' outer defenses, striking swiftly at the orbital shields. The crystal towers on the surface pulsed as energy shields activated, deflecting some attacks, but explosions erupted in distant cities, sending plumes of smoke into the alien skies. Elira commanded the royal communications, issuing orders with calm authority. "All units, defensive positions. Protect civilians. Maintain coordination." The Xylaran troops, disciplined and trained, moved quickly, but they were not accustomed to an enemy so aggressive and unpredictable. The Crathery struck in waves, their ships maneuvering in ways that Xylaran strategists had never planned for. Alex moved quietly among the commanders, his eyes scanning every detail. He did not raise his voice, but his suggestions carried weight. "Divide the squads into smaller mobile units," he instructed. "Do not rely solely on strength. Use the terrain, use your speed, and strike where they are weak." The Xylaran commanders hesitated but followed his advice. Small squads moved out from the palace walls, weaving between crystal towers, using the forests and rivers for cover. The Crathery were powerful, but they were predictable in certain ways, and Alex quickly identified patterns in their attacks. The first direct clash occurred near the outskirts of the capital. A Crathery strike team descended on a civilian district, their energy weapons cutting through defenses with deadly precision. Xyloran soldiers were brave, but some faltered under the unexpected ferocity. Without hesitation, Alex joined the front lines. He moved quickly, guiding squads, improvising defenses, and positioning civilians in safe zones. He demonstrated tactics the Xylarans had never considered: feints, ambushes, and sudden retreats to lure the Krathari into traps. Queen Elira watched from the palace balcony astonished. The human she had thought of as modest and gentle was now a whirlwind of precision, strategy, and courage. He coordinated the battle, fought alongside the troops, and always stayed one step ahead of the enemy. In one decisive moment, a Krathari vessel aimed a powerful energy blast at a critical crystal tower. Xylaran soldiers hesitated, unsure how to react in time. Alex sprinted forward, barking calm orders, and directed a small squad to use portable deflectors to redirect the blast safely. The tower survived, and the citizens nearby were unharmed. Elira could hardly believe what she saw. This was not the human she had married. This was someone extraordinary, someone who could think and act in ways her species had never imagined. Her heart raced with admiration and awe. The battle continued throughout the day. Krathari forces pushed forward relentlessly, but under Alex's guidance, the Xylarans adapted quickly. They used their environment strategically, outmaneuvered enemy squads, and turned small defenses into effective traps. Humans and Xylarans fought side by side, learning from each other, moving with coordination that amazed even the most experienced commanders. During a brief lull in the fighting, Elira approached Alex. "I underestimated you," she admitted, her voice a mix of surprise and respect. "I thought you were modest, but you are something else entirely." Alex shook his head slightly, brushing sweat from his brow. "I'm just doing what must be done," he said humbly. "Humans survive by adapting, that is all." But Elira knew it was more than that. It was courage, intelligence, and a willingness to risk everything for others. It was a spark of something powerful that no one could teach. It was in his very nature. As night fell, the battle shifted. Krathari forces regrouped, launching a second wave with heavier firepower. Xylaran troops were exhausted and some feared they could not hold. Alex, however, remained composed. He studied their movements, identifying weaknesses and opportunities for counterattack. He gathered squads in secret, teaching them new tactics: how to move silently, how to use distractions, how to create illusions of strength where there was none. The soldiers, initially skeptical, quickly realized his strategies worked. Small groups of Xylarans and humans were now defeating larger Krathari units with clever maneuvers, turning the tide in ways that no one expected. In the heart of the city, Alex personally led a team to evacuate trapped civilians from a collapsing district. Energy blasts and debris flew around them, yet he moved with precision, calm under pressure, giving instructions that saved countless lives. Elira watched from a distance, her heart filled with both fear and admiration. By dawn, the first day of the invasion had ended. Xylarus had suffered damage, but the city stood. The citizens who had fled to safe zones began emerging, witnessing the aftermath of a battle that could have destroyed them. Yet despite the chaos, they felt hope. Elira approached Alex as he reviewed the battle plans for the next wave. "I thought I married a modest man," she said softly. "But today, I saw a leader, a hero, and someone who could face any danger. How do you do this?" Alex looked at her, his expression calm but resolute. "I am human. We survive by thinking, by acting, by helping others. You thought I was modest, Elira. Perhaps I am, but I also rise to the moment when it matters most." Elira nodded slowly, understanding finally that modesty did not mean weakness. It was simply a quiet exterior hiding extraordinary capability. She felt pride, love, and something deeper. Realization that the human she had married was capable of shaping the fate of her planet, perhaps even the entire galaxy. The battle was far from over. Krathari forces were regrouping, and Elira knew the next day could bring greater danger. Yet as she watched Alex plan, guide, and inspire, she felt a confidence she had never known. Xylaris was in good hands, not because of size or power, but because of courage, intellect, and the human spirit embodied in the man beside her. The night, air shimmered over the forests and rivers as the queen and her human husband stood together. Explosions still echoed in distant districts, but there was hope. The modest man had revealed his true strength, and Xylaris would never see him the same way again. And so, as the first day of the Chthari invasion ended, one truth became clear. The humans of Earth might be small, modest, and unassuming, but in moments of crisis they could rise to heights that even the greatest alien civilizations could not anticipate. Elira looked at Alex, her eyes filled with awe. The man she thought she knew was far more than ordinary. And tomorrow, the storm would continue, and humanity would prove once again that courage and ingenuity could change the course of the stars. The sky above Xylaris burned with the glow of distant fires and the streaks of energy weapons. The first wave of the Chthari invasion had ended, but the alien ships were far from defeated. Queen Elira watched from the palace balcony, her face calm yet determined. Beside her, Captain Alex Carter studied the holographic battle maps projected in the air, analyzing every move the enemy had made. "They are stronger than we expected," one of the Xylaran commanders said nervously. "If they regroup, they could overwhelm our forces tomorrow." Alex shook his head, his gaze steady. "Strength is not everything. They are predictable in their patterns. We need to use mobility, deception, and teamwork. Small squads can do what large forces cannot if they act smartly." Elira observed him closely. She had seen his capabilities yesterday, but now she understood something deeper. Humans were capable of seeing the bigger picture, of anticipating moves before they happened and turning apparent weakness into strength. Alex called a meeting with the Xylaran commanders. The chamber was filled with holograms of terrain, troop placements, and enemy positions. The Xylarans listened carefully as Alex outlined his plan. "We will split into small agile units," he explained. "Do not rely on brute force. Move quickly, strike decisively, then withdraw before they can respond. We will use the terrain, the forests, and the rivers to our advantage. The Chthari expect traditional attacks. We will do something they cannot predict." The commanders were skeptical at first. Xylarans had always valued precision, order, and formal strategy. Humans, by contrast, thrived on improvisation and adaptability. Yet Alex's calm confidence and clear reasoning began to convince them. Slowly, they started to see the wisdom in his approach. That night, as the twin moons rose, Alex personally trained squads of Xylaran soldiers. They practiced small team maneuvers, silent movements, and rapid strikes. He showed them how to use the environment to hide, how to anticipate enemy reactions, and how to coordinate attacks without centralized commands. The soldiers, initially hesitant, soon realized the effectiveness of these methods. Meanwhile, Queen Elira moved among her people, providing reassurance and encouragement. She watched Alex work tirelessly, never taking credit, never seeking recognition. His quiet leadership inspired not only the soldiers but also the citizens of Xylaris. For the first time, many began to understand that humans could be extraordinary, not because of physical power but because of courage, ingenuity, and determination. The next morning, the Chthari launched their second wave. Their ships swooped down from orbit and energy blasts lit the skies. Yet this time, Xylaris was ready. Small squads of Xylarans and humans moved in coordination, striking where the Chthari least expected. They set traps, used the terrain, and created diversions. The alien forces were caught off guard, and for the first time they hesitated. Alex led one squad personally into the heart of the battlefield. He moved with precision, guiding soldiers to strike weak points in the enemy formation. A Chthari ground unit advanced toward a critical supply depot, but Alex anticipated their move. He redirected the Xylaran forces to block their path and used portable energy fields to trap the enemy temporarily. The humans and Xylarans worked together seamlessly, executing maneuvers that no single species could have accomplished alone. Queen Elira watched from a safe vantage point, her heart racing with a mix of fear and awe. She had always admired human courage, but seeing it in action, witnessing Alex's tactical genius, his ability to remain calm under pressure, and his willingness to risk himself for others, filled her with admiration. This was the human spirit at its finest, creative, brave, and unyielding. The battle raged throughout the day, but the tide began to turn. Chthari units that had seemed unstoppable were now being forced back. Small squads infiltrated their positions, sabotaged their equipment, and ambushed larger formations. Xylarans, who had once doubted the humans' methods, now saw the truth. Improvisation, adaptability, and courage could overcome brute strength. At one critical moment, a massive Chthari ship descended toward the central city district. The Xylarans panicked, unsure how to stop it. Alex quickly analyzed the situation and directed a daring plan. He led a team of elite soldiers to plant energy disruptors at strategic points around the city. Then, using coordinated signals, they activated the devices simultaneously. A shockwave disabled the Chthari ship's systems, forcing it to retreat. The city was saved. The citizens of Xylaris watched in awe as the Chthari forces faltered. Word spread quickly. Humans were extraordinary, capable of strategies and heroism that even the mighty Xylarans could not have imagined. Alex's modest demeanor hid an exceptional mind and fearless heart, qualities that began to inspire everyone around him. As the day ended, Elira approached Alex in the palace courtyard. The air shimmered with heat from distant fires, and the glow of the forests cast long, luminous shadows. "You have changed everything," Elira said softly, her eyes filled with admiration. "I thought I married a modest man. But today, I have seen the true strength of humanity." Alex smiled gently. "I am only doing what must be done. Humans survive by thinking, by acting, and by helping others. That is all. The rest comes naturally when the moment demands it." Elira shook her head in wonder. "You are modest, yes, but also extraordinary. I see now that humans are capable of more than even we imagined. Your courage, your mind, it inspires everyone." Alex looked around at the palace, the soldiers, and the citizens who were beginning to emerge from shelters. The people are brave too. They only needed guidance, a way to use their strengths differently. That is what I do. I help them see what they are capable of. The Queen felt a swell of pride and hope. Humans, she realized, were not weak or ordinary. Their power lay in creativity, courage, and the ability to rise to challenges that seemed impossible. Alex embodied these qualities fully, proving that modesty could coexist with greatness. That night, as Xylaris slowly recovered from the day's battles, Elira and Alex walked through the glowing gardens. The air was filled with the gentle hum of bioluminescent plants, and the rivers of light reflected the twin moons. "You are changing my world," Elira said quietly, "not just in strategy but in how we see ourselves. Humans, you show us what courage truly is." Alex smiled, placing a hand lightly on hers. "Humans survive by learning, adapting, and helping others. That is all, but yes, sometimes we inspire too." Elira laughed softly, feeling a warmth that went beyond admiration. She had married a man who seemed humble and ordinary, yet she now understood the truth. He was anything but ordinary. His presence had already begun to transform her people, showing them that true strength was not only in size or power, but in courage, ingenuity, and the will to rise when it mattered most. And so, under the glow of the twin moons and the shimmering forests, Xylaris prepared for the battles to come. The Chthari would return stronger and more determined, but the humans had risen. Their courage and intelligence had begun to shift the balance of power. Elira looked at Alex, her eyes filled with pride and respect. "Tomorrow we continue," she said softly. Alex nodded. "Tomorrow we fight smarter. Tomorrow we rise together." The modest man she had married was no longer just modest. He was a leader, a strategist, and a symbol of human courage. And Xylaris, its queen and its people, would never forget the day humanity showed its true power. The sky above Xylaris was filled with fire and smoke. The Chthari forces had returned, larger and more determined than before. Their ships moved like dark shadows, cutting across the glowing rivers and crystal towers of the capital. Citizens scrambled to safety, but Queen Elira stood tall, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Beside her, Captain Alex Carter studied the situation calmly, as if the chaos were a puzzle waiting to be solved. "This is their largest assault yet," one commander said nervously. "We may not be able to hold them." Alex shook his head. "They think size and firepower are everything. That is their mistake. If we fight smart, we can turn the tide. Small teams, surprise attacks, and clever traps will make the difference." Elira watched him with admiration. Over the past days, she had witnessed his courage, intelligence, and leadership. He was modest, yes, but he carried within him a spark that inspired everyone around him. Today, that spark would become a blaze. The battle began with the Chthari striking the outer districts. Xyloran defenders engaged immediately, but Alex had already anticipated their moves. He directed squads to set up ambush points using the forests, rivers, and crystalline buildings as natural defenses. Humans and Xylarans moved together in perfect coordination, striking where the Chthari least expected. Alex personally led a squad into a critical zone where the enemy was preparing to destroy the central energy grid. His movements were precise and deliberate. He gave calm, clear orders. One group would disable the enemy ship's weapons, another would evacuate civilians, and a third would set traps to slow reinforcements. The plan worked flawlessly. The enemy was caught off guard. Their superior firepower rendered less effective. Xyloran soldiers, inspired by Alex's calm courage, fought harder and smarter than ever before. Each human and Xyloran action complemented the other, creating a fluid, unstoppable force. Queen Elira watched from the palace balcony as the modest human she had married became the heart of the defense. She saw him sprint across open streets, divert enemy fire, and coordinate complex maneuvers, all while keeping his composure. His modesty had hidden extraordinary ability, and now the whole planet could see it. At one moment, a massive Chthari warship targeted the city's main power grid. The Xyloran soldiers froze, unsure how to respond. Alex calculated quickly. He gathered a small squad, including elite Xyloran fighters, and led a daring attack. Using portable energy disruptors, they moved under cover of smoke and debris, planting the devices at precise points. With a signal from Alex, the disruptors activated simultaneously, sending a shockwave through the enemy ship. Its weapons failed, and it was forced to retreat. The citizens of Xylaris, watching from shelters, erupted in cheer. Humans had proven themselves capable of leadership, bravery, and quick thinking, qualities even the mighty Xylorans could respect. News spread quickly. The modest human captain was now a hero, a symbol of hope for the entire planet. As the battle continued, Alex identified the enemy's weak points. Chthari forces were powerful but rigid, relying on brute force rather than adaptability. He exploited this by creating false targets, leading enemy squads into traps and dividing their forces. Small, agile teams struck key positions, and the Chthari began to falter. Elira, now fully understanding his brilliance, coordinated her own forces alongside Alex. Together, they became an unstoppable duo. Her strategic wisdom combined with his human ingenuity and courage. Xyloran troops fought with renewed energy, inspired by the Queen and her husband. By the end of the day, the Chthari were forced to retreat. Their remaining ships fled into the darkness of space, unable to withstand the combined intelligence, bravery, and coordination of humans and Xylorans. Xylaris had survived, and the citizens emerged from their shelters cheering the defenders. In the aftermath, Elira walked among her people, witnessing the gratitude and admiration in their eyes. Soldiers, civilians, and council members all spoke of the human who had led them to victory. Alex, ever humble, brushed off the praise, focusing instead on ensuring the wounded were cared for and defenses were secured. Later, in the palace gardens, Elira approached him. The night sky reflected in the rivers of light, and the bioluminescent plants glowed softly around them. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. "I thought I married a modest man. But today, you have shown courage, intelligence, and leadership beyond anything I imagined. You have saved my people, my planet." Alex smiled gently, his eyes calm. "I only did what had to be done. Humans survive by thinking, acting, and helping others. That is all, but I'm glad I could help." Elira shook her head in wonder. "You are humble, yes, but also extraordinary. You have shown everyone what humans can do when they rise to the moment. Your bravery, your mind, it inspires us all." Alex looked around at the recovering city, the people emerging from their shelters, and the Xyloran soldiers who had learned to adapt and think differently. The people did this too. They only needed guidance. Humans can inspire, yes, but the courage of those around us matters just as much. Elira realized the truth of his words. Humans were not only brave individually. They could inspire others, unite forces, and transform civilizations with ideas, strategy, and courage. Alex had done all of that, showing the Xylarans a side of humanity they had never imagined. The next morning, the council convened to assess the aftermath. Xalaris had suffered damage, but the city and its people had survived intact. The council praised Alex for his contributions, acknowledging his guidance, strategy, and leadership. Xylarans, who had once doubted humans, now saw them as equals, capable of feats beyond expectation. Elira stood beside him during the council's address. "Captain Alex Carter," she announced, "has demonstrated the courage, intelligence, and ingenuity that saved our world. Humans are not ordinary. Today we have learned that their spirit, their creativity, and their bravery are worthy of our respect and admiration." The room erupted in applause. Alex, ever modest, nodded and thanked them quietly. Yet even in his humility, his impact was undeniable. Humans had proven that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could overcome even the most formidable foes. In the days that followed, Xylaris began a new era. The people rebuilt their cities, strengthened their defenses, and adopted new strategies taught by Alex. Humans and Xylarans worked side by side, learning from each other, forming bonds that would last generations. Elira and Alex continued to walk through the glowing forests and crystal rivers, often in quiet reflection. "You have changed my world," Elira said softly. "Not just in battle, but in how we see ourselves and each other. Humans, you show us what courage truly is." Alex smiled. "We survive by learning, adapting, and helping others. That is all, but yes, sometimes we inspire too." Elira laughed softly, a sound filled with warmth and admiration. "You are modest yet extraordinary. I see now that the human I married was never ordinary. You are a symbol of what we can achieve together, humans and Xylarans united." The twin suns rose over Xylaris, casting light on the crystal towers and glowing forests. The people of Xylaris had learned a valuable lesson. Strength was not only measured by size or power, but by courage, intelligence, and the will to rise in the face of danger. Humans, modest as they seemed, embodied these qualities fully. And in the heart of it all, Captain Alex Carter and Queen Elira stood together, partners, equals, and leaders. The human she had married was no longer a mystery. He was a hero, a strategist, and an inspiration, proving that humanity's greatest strength lay not in physical might but in heart, mind, and spirit. Xylaris entered a golden age of cooperation and understanding, a new era where humans earned respect across the stars. And for Elira, the lesson was personal. She had married not only a man of modest demeanor, but one of extraordinary courage and brilliance. The story of Xylaris and its modest human hero would be told for generations, a tale of unity, courage, and the boundless potential of humanity when faced with the greatest challenges. The modest man she married had become a legend,